So I just want to thank you, and I want to state that this research was not actually done by me. It was done by Professor Tshwane, but we worked together. So she's here today, and I need to acknowledge that. And she's going to participate actively in the discussion.
Excellent.
Yeah, so let me now screen my paper there. Are you able to see?
Yes, we can see it. Excellent.
Okay, okay. So without wasting time, I'm not going to go back to the topic. And can you see the logos there? It's Tshwane University of Technology and University of Johannesburg. That's where Tshwane is based. And both of us are in fashion design related fields. So why fashion? And I just want to introduce, to give a background very briefly. It has remained one of the key value creating industries for world economy. Although currently, due to COVID-19, I understand there's about 50% reduction in the contributions of the industry because of that. But we are going just to look at what we did before. So, but in spite of that, the consumers have continuously changed their behavior. The market is very volatile, and it's triggered because of the new technology in the industry and the consumer needs that keep, changing. So the industry continues to be uncertain, and it has continuously become very challenging. And this is a global perspective. Now, in South Africa, or in Africa per se, the same pattern is happening. The South African clothing and textile has been diminishing, and particularly in the weak supply, in the supply chain, which is very weak. We don't have a very strong, materials, raw resources. We don't have very strong textile manufacturing, and we also don't have very strong apparel design companies. They have shifted to China. And this becomes also very challenging in terms of competition because of the prices that, we cannot compete. However, many governments worldwide and government of South Africa has also supported the small entrepreneurs in the sense that there are people that still want to associate, want to be unique, to have their own styles, and it can only be offered by the small entrepreneurs. We've got huge retail industry in South Africa. We've got the Woolworths, Foschini, Truworths, and all that. And when you look at that, the clothing that are supplied there kind of are almost similar, of course, because they're informed by the trends. But there are certain people that don't want to take part in that, and that is why now the small businesses are still thriving. So South African government supports SMEs, that is the small and medium enterprises, through various initiatives. One of the initiatives is financial, and then the other one is incubation hubs. Now, when you look at the other countries south of Sahara, apart from South Africa, I would say it's only South Africa that has the incubation hub initiative. The others, majority of them are maybe supported financially. And I will explain this later. So now I focus my discussion on now the fashion incubation. So the South African fashion designers, these are the top designers. And why I say top designers, these are the people who can actually incubate or mentor others so that they can produce apparel that can compete in the market successfully. So some of them are here that have those initiatives. David Tlale. David Tlale is known for his show where he brings interns and he trains them and he challenges them. And eventually the winner gets some financial support and technological support, and they're ready to thrive in the market. So I'll just give that as one example. Now, the other African countries, like I said, south of Sahara, where there is no hub, incubation hub initiatives, they have individual initiatives. That is the top designers and, the apprentice designers negotiate on personal level so that they get interned or they get into their premises so that they learn. And this does not happen regularly because the fashion industry is a very closed business and competition is hidden in the way people do things, maybe in patterns and all that. So it becomes very challenging for other entrepreneurs in other African countries to actually get close to successful designers. However, we realize that there are many people in this industry that either learned from their maybe parents, maybe they learned through experience, and some of them went to colleges. But when you look at some of the colleges in those sub-Saharan African countries, they don't have the ability to train designers on a higher scale. I happen to have, moved from some of the countries and now in South Africa. So I would say in Africa, it is only South Africa that has, I would say, the highest, design education program. So now we look at now the differences between experienced expert designers and the novice or the apprentice designers. So having shown you, some of the top designers in South Africa who have the incubation businesses, they are experienced designers and they also run successful businesses. These are people that have operated in businesses for some time. And most of them have design education background, either diploma or higher national diploma or bachelor's degree in design. They participate in high-level fashion shows. They make value-added garments, and they also have business skills, or they are real entrepreneurs. And then they have the business acumen. While the novice apprentice, the novice designer are the normal acquainted designers, so the tailors that have basic education. And these are the people that get used to, maybe they're manufacturing school uniforms and they're happy with that. So their skills are limited to some level. And then we have the trainee, the people that come from the universities send their students out there for practical, we call it WIL, work integrated program. And these are people whose skills have not been developed extensively because they only have the basic education. And most of them also lack business acumen. Now, so what happens in the fashion design when individuals are designing? There are certain rules and there are certain concepts that are applied in the design processes. And Telepis defines a design process as both artistic and aesthetic planning process, which results in a product that must be aesthetically appealing and must be functional. So I have brought in the design thinking approach, which later came into being, into existence, after several practices on or written theories on the design processes. We've got several people who have written on that, and each one of them have got their own concepts, but what is common in all of them is what we now call design thinking approach. But when you look at the definition, is the design thinking approach helps to solve the problems that emanates from the designing processes. So when you look at some of the common steps in fashion design, is inspiration, identification of the problem, conceptualization, exploration, definition, modeling, and communication. But when you look at that, they, someone is talking. So when you look at these steps, they all link up to the design thinking steps. And that is why the arrows there, I've shown the arrows linking, like identification of the problem and conceptualization actually links to the understanding concept of design thinking. Now, when somebody is designing, then there are certain parameters that determine what should be designed. And some of the items is size and fit. This size and fit is understanding important key dimensions for different garments. It includes size charts and size specifications. And it includes fit issues related to the different body types and pattern design development principles. So if a novice designer is meant to make a garment and they don't understand this, and they will not understand this unless they have been, in the practice for some time, interacting with various, designers in body types, consumers. Also, the size charts come from different countries and they mean differently. So they need to have been exposed for quite some time to understand the size specifications and to relate these size specifications to the people on the ground or to the niche market or to the target consumers. So like in South Africa, for example, we are using adaptations of European size systems. So if a designer just goes to a sizing system that is existing and uses it, it's not going to work for them. So some of these technical issues need to be understood. And the high level or the expert designers have already experienced them. Then there is the trends and aesthetics. There is the drawings and illustrations, visual research that they have to do, silhouettes, details, fabric textures, and all these contribute to the beauty of the garment. So when you look at that, the novice designers in most cases understand only that aspect. They see the beauty. They want to see the end results, but they don't understand how a fabric could actually contribute to, usage of the garment. So, for example, the garments, the fabric they choose, maybe it's based on the patterns, maybe based on the colors. And once they have done that, they cannot even explain to the consumer how that garment is going to function. So they need also to understand the functional aspects, which is the depth, beyond the surface of the beauty of the garment. So all these things now must be understood before or during the process of designing. So this then brings us to the benefits of collaborations. And I've written here to say a novice designer cannot understand details of a product development, whilst the experienced designers do understand. And therefore, collaboration and mentorship program for the apprentice designers goes a long way in improving their design entrepreneurial skills. So as much as I've emphasized here how the entrepreneurs are benefiting, there are also aspects of benefits to the expert designer. And I'm going to talk about that much later. Because, for example, if I go back to these African entrepreneurs, the knowledge is tacit. They have a lot of experience, but they have tacit knowledge that has not been tapped. And for example, if you see the women, that woman there on that side, the dress that she is wearing is almost couture. It has, the body shape, it has a shape of 3D. Yet this is a person who cuts directly on the fabric as opposed to making the patterns and understanding the pattern principles, like what I said. So as much as we have these novice designers, they have tacit knowledge which has not been tapped. And during now the collaboration, some of those things also benefit the expert designers. Now, which brings me, that was kind of the background or the problem statement, and which brings me now to the research which was done by Professor Tselepis in 2015, where she identified one case. She got involved in one of the typical high-level design incubator so that she could understand the benefits of the collaboration. And in that project, it was a well-established small business where there were three designers. Two of the designers were the owners of that entity, while one designer also, who was expert designer, I think had joined them. And this can be elaborated later by Prof. Thea, was joined by that, and I think she owned a retail outlet where some of the garments produced in this entity were being sold. So there was a project where 20 dresses needed to be made, and those 20 dresses were supposed to be showcased during an international fashion week, and they were also supposed to be supplied to local specialty store that caters for specific target market. So the three experienced design entrepreneurs invited 9 apprentice designers to collaborate on the project of 20 garments. So the parameters, like I said, you cannot start a design without something to guide the design process. So the parameters that guided the design here were given or analyzed by the three top designers. They are the ones who presented that. And then some of those were the fashion brand, the look, that is the size specifications. And if you remember what I talked about in product development, that some of them are here. And then the fashion trend, the budget, and the central theme. So the central theme was also originated by the experts, while the apprentice designers were also given opportunity to make suggestions. And they suggested, or they proposed, South African natural elements. So so that is their contribution. And then customer specifications were, all of them participated in the choice. And then the overall design inspiration was directed by the experienced designers. So you can see some of the statements that that came out during her interaction with the designers and with the apprentice designers. So one of them said that inspiration is something personal. So we ask the youngsters for opinion and inputs only when we are happy with what we have. So this indicated that they already had to provide the direction. But they provided the direction, but they also allowed the 9 of the concept designs to be developed by the 9 apprentices. So meaning they were given the freedom, they are given the direction and they are given the freedom. So experience mentorship given 9 of the range. So they were just mentored, but they had been given to work individually on that. So then the experience designer has also a statement which clearly states how they participated is we have to give these young designers a way to show what they have, an opportunity like this can make a designer. So there is that freedom. And like what I said earlier, it's not only one way. The benefits is not only one way, whereby, the top designer is only giving instructions, but they are also given that opportunity to express themselves. And in doing so, then the expert designers are able also to learn. So two apprentice designers were grouped with one experienced designer. Some of the apprentice designers expressed dissatisfaction with predetermined theme. Remember, when the theme was created, the 3 designers decided already. But some of these, apprentice designers felt that why are we being, controlled? But, later on, we realized that they really appreciate this. So then there's the sketching. The sketching is typically drawing or a way of conceptualizing. But in this apprentice, the experienced designers just gave them, gave instruction to make.
Someone is interrupting here. Yomoku, Yumoke, I'm muting you if I can. I can't.
Professor Mason, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes,
Okay,
I can.
perfect.
And
Yeah.
Georges, can you mute?
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Can you make me host as well so I could do it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the experienced designers instructed to make a drawing simple, usually in fashion design. And that is why initially I talked about there are so many processes that many people have written, to be followed when doing the design, where the drawing is started and, the full garment has been completed even before the garment has been started. But the difference here is that the expert designers informed the apprentice designers to make it simple. And the reason being that they wanted to develop, the ideas and finally draw a final product once the garment has been done. And you can see even from the statement there that the sketch is sometimes not the dress, it's just the ideas. So it's a waste of time to focus on the design at that stage, yet it was going to change eventually. And this is actually an aspect that usually happens during the process. So then it was kept simple by these people, but I'm sure they were not understanding the reason why, because the education tells them that you have to sketch the garment into completion before you can start. Then the fabric selection is also part of the concept development. And this is where now the aspect of budget comes in, where these are already businesses that are running. They make, garments regularly, but they have leftovers. But they want to maximize what has been left. so that they save and so that they minimize the material usage. So here again, they said large pieces of the leftover and only one roll of basic plain satin fabric was bought. So remember, there was supposed to be made 20 garments. So it's only one fabric that was bought. And everything else that was supposed to go into those garments was from the leftovers.
Professor Mason, we soon have to take some questions also. And I have
Okay.
already the first 5 or 6 questions. So I don't know how many slides you have left.
I still have many, but I can quickly go, but you can ask. We can make it interactive, no problem.
Yeah, because I can see you still have, you're halfway or so, and we are also halfway now in the hour that we have, and it would be a pity if the audience could not ask questions. And, but one of the things so what this research is very much about is this concept of the master and the mentee, or the
yes.
Like we also see in the movies, to be a successful movie director, you have to, work in the shadows of Coppola or Lars von Trier or Steven Spielberg, and then but you can't really buy the book that tells you how to become a successful fashion designer or how to become a successful movie director. You have to, it's these are creative skills that needs to be transmitted by being next to it. It's kind of like learning to cook by your mother or grandmother. She can give you the recipe, but it doesn't work unless you're actually next to her and you're trying to learn. So although you use, my question is actually, when you use the design, you're teaching design thinking, that is something you can learn from a book, more or less. I mean, it's good that you have professors that can teach it. So does it really make sense to take the design thinking approach when in reality it's about spending time together with David Tale and the other designers? That is actually the value of it. It's the tactile things that you can't really transmit other than being together.
Yeah, I agree with you. In real sense, those ideas or the concepts are there, but it is not linear. It's not linear. They move forth and backward because, like for example, this expert designer is starting right from the bottom and coming to the front. So the experience that he has is able now to make things upside down and later on turn them to normal. So I agree with you that actually interaction is not linear. The process is not linear. It's not like what has been written. But remember, this was a research, and in research, it has to be rigorous. You've got to follow steps.
So, I can imagine it must have been difficult to really get into, under the skin of what really happens. When do the learnings really take place? Is it, the books, the time spent with the books on design thinking, or is it actually when you work together? There's another thing that I also wondered was, you talked a lot about uncertainty in the fashion sector. Hasn't that always been there? Because as a designer, even David Tale, he doesn't know exactly what his next collection will look like. So it's uncertainty in the output, how will, what will people wear and what will it, what will the outcome be is really uncertain. But also, what will demand be? That's very, very different from selling a product like internet connection or telephone services or milk and cheese. And uncertainty, hasn't that always been in the fashion sector?
It has always been dynamic, but it's more dynamic now. It has been shaped by the technology. It's becoming even worse, but it has always been there. And that is why we used to talk about the seasons, and those days, the design aspects used to take up to 6 months before it gets into the retail store. But right now, you can imagine now the demands are changing every 2 weeks. So the dynamism has been there, but it's moving at a faster rate than before.
So,
And maybe Prof. Thea could also come in here, especially when it comes to the engagement in the research, because she's the one who did the research. But
Thea
you,
Synapsis, you're welcome to join in and unmute if you're interested, or if you can. I always find it fascinating. Could you maybe, while we're getting Thea on board,
yeah,
Professor Mason, explain the impact of technology? Because for someone who is not I mean, I like good clothes and good fabrics, and
yeah,
I also like stuff that are simple. And I was looking at David's website, and there's not a lot.
David Lale, yeah.
Yeah. There's only like there's underwear and shoes, but but what I wanted to say is technology. Is it, when you say technology has impacted? Is it because uh, it influences tastes? So
It
essentially,
it does that.
it changes so fast what people want to wear, that, oh, is it green, is it blue, is it striped, is it checkered? That's what's happening. Or is it technology in the sense that you can faster bring a product to market? Or what is the actual technological part of the uncertainty impact? Is it the
Oh,
Instagram and Pinterest and all that?
okay, it is a holistic approach of technology.
Mm-hmm.
One, the technology in the sense that it can bring to the marketplace very quick. We have what we call just in time or
Yeah.
quick or point of sale systems. All those are that. And then also the trends are impacted by the technology because of what is happening on Instagram and Facebook. People just want to look at, and remember that the leaders in most cases are usually the famous people,
Yeah.
the TV stars and the Hollywood people. So
Yeah.
these are the people that, they present it today and tomorrow everyone wants that. And
Yeah.
actually that I would say, has fastened or has actually promoted the custom made or the small scale entrepreneurship in South Africa. It's through that the next day the customers are running to the designers. We want to look like this and this and
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is an aspect of it. And also the process of design has been shortened. It used to be manually done. You had to do the sketching like what I've talked about now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They used to do manually sketching, color in and all that. But now the computers are able to do that with a press of a button. You don't have to do much. You just, put your croquis or the silhouette and you fill in with any colors and you change with, to any
Mm-hmm.
colors that you would like to. So more unique stuff are coming because of technology.
Yeah, I remember there was a Danish 15 years ago. There's a Danish brand called Punk Royale. I don't know if anyone knows it anymore, but they went really, and they had Kylie Minogue starting to wear their pants. And by every city she toured, they could suddenly see a demand rising because of her touring in their Punk Royale pants. We have questions now. I think before we let Thea on, or you can also, welcome to come on, Thea. Well, let's go Thea first, and then we have Sandy, and then after that we have Naina. So we have three in a row here, and we have 21 minutes left.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Rosmus, for this, for the invite, and to Prof. Mason for, she did a far better job that I could have done. So thank you so much. She was my supervisor at the time, so therefore she's so clued up with what happened. Just to clarify two things, Rosmus, your first question regarding where does the learning take place, and I think my field is not just in fashion, but entrepreneurship for, with, and as creatives.
Wow.
And I think the real learning here, in terms of design thinking, Just to clarify, I think design thinking is so far from theory as anything I know, because design thinking is thinking through doing and doing through thinking. So the real learning to really answer your question, and I hope I do it justice, is that it really takes place when these people do a basic dress and then they start layering other fabrics on top of it. So all of these dresses start as basically the same dress, and that's maybe what would have followed in the presentation. And
So
so,
that's very different. Sorry, so that's very different from learning. For example, if you're a medical student,
yes, absolutely,
you would read
absolutely.
about something, but you wouldn't really go out and practice a heart operation anywhere,
Absolutely.
because either you would do it or you wouldn't.
Absolutely. So experimentation, Rasmus, is key. And it's like a lot of the times, let me tell you, these people would put on something, you would literally take a step back. And this is what we've done. We actually put it on the dolls, took a step back, and your mentor will then be that voice to either affirm or say, well, I'm not sure where this is going, but go ahead. So it's quite a creative and dynamic process,
Okay.
but hence it's evolving. And yes, you are correct. You never really know where it goes. And the spirit of the dress, if you would like, actually would show you how to where it goes. And hence sustainability. I saw one of the questions was about sustainability.
Yes.
And this was quite important because first of all, your mentee saves a lot of money on fabric and all those things, but also it allows, this dress to become whatever it needs to become. But at least you have a more experienced person in the sense of the business to align clients and what you are making. So in the end, you don't end up with something that nobody else wants, because it's wonderful if you have this fantastic garment, but if you cannot sell it, of course, at the end of the day, it's not, it's not feasible for business. Then it's, just a marketing exercise.
But maybe we
So
could
this was
we'll get back to you, Sandy. Nanya, maybe you could elaborate a bit on your unmute and elaborate on your question regarding sustainability. Nanya,
sure. Yeah. Hi.
Where are you at? Where are you located?
I'm actually in Berlin, in Germany, at the moment.
Excellent.
Yeah. And the name is very confusingly. It's pronounced Nana.
Nana.
It's spelled with an I, but it's pronounced Nana. Yeah.
Okay.
So first of all, thanks for the session. I think it's really useful. As I mentioned, I work within that kind of industry as well myself. My product basically spans a few different industries, but fashion is one of them for sure. My question was basically around something that I work with myself and I'm quite passionate about. I think sustainability is having a moment right now. So there's a lot around like circular economy and building things in sort of more sustainable ways, circular production, et cetera. So I heard mention earlier of the idea of using leftover fabric. So I was wondering how much that is a part of your current processes, or are you looking to build them into your processes?
So leftover fabrics. That could be for Anne or for Thea.
Let me go, and then Thea can okay, sustainable development. This is a research that was done in 2015. The sustainability aspects here is seen in less usage of paper. Especially look at the sketching, for example. You don't have to get piles and piles of papers. You just have a skeleton or a croquis, and then later on you fill it up. So you only use that. So that is an aspect of sustainability. Then the usage of leftover fabrics is also an aspect of sustainability. But now, the aspect of sustainable development in South Africa is the core business of education. So the values and the ethics of the university, right from the top, indicate that we have to teach that. So every program, irrespective of whichever field, they have those concepts. So Thea, where she's teaching in University of Johannesburg, they have that. We also teach in Tshwane University of Technology. So that is at the core of what we are teaching.
Okay, excellent. Then we have a question from, or do you want to, Thea?
Yeah,
I just wanted to add that, frugal innovation, I think I've seen a lot of frugality, but not as much as I've seen in Africa. So just the whole approach of not just the material, but also using it in such different ways. So I suppose that the frugal innovation also links to sustainability in a big way.
I can see that a very well-dressed man I know, Dr. Edwin Maglior, is making a bit of noise. Either you want to say something or you want to mute your microphone. But now we have Sandy. You had a question. Sandy?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Rasmus. Thank you, Prophet and Thea, for the very insightful info. I'm from South Africa, Benoni, where Charlize Theron comes from, by the way. I just wanted to, and everything, and with the whole job creation, youth empowerment right now, tapping into the youth's talents or piquing their interests in creative, innovative ways. How open are you guys to collaborations with grassroots level communities to bring these things to schools? Because my passion right now is like creating kits for them that they can learn, get off the streets, but just pique their interest. And as the younger they start, is the more that they get interested and they become creative innovators instead of consumers. So how open would you be to meeting with us and starting such things at community level? Thank you.
Should I answer first?
Yes, you can answer that, yeah.
I would say very keen. I totally agree with you. The sooner the better. So we have worked quite intensively in Ikangala and the Olivenote-Bosch area, townships, and then UJ is quite involved in Soweto. And you know what? If only we can get the kids at the school stage, that would really change everything. Because, you know, if you can get them to start dabbling and experimenting and see design as really an option, I believe, you know, we first design artifacts perhaps, but later on we start designing strategy, because that's higher up in the design thinking. And later on we you know, find a way to integrate systems. And it all starts with simply, you know, starting out our, you know, starting playing with design just as for artifacts. And eventually, yes, so I am open to that. And I'm sure I can speak for Anne that you two does some great work in communities as well.
Thank you. You've answered.
Excellent. Let me just check the chat, see here if there are any. Dr. Yemi has a question. Oh, yes. Wait a minute. Sorry, there's also, let's take Dr. Yemi first, and then we go to Elizabeth Oyukunle.
Same person.
Oh, it's the same?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I see it is. I see it's the same person. Sorry. Dr. Yemi.
Okay, thank you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gorgeous. I just have this question for Professor Mason. In South Africa, we know the problem of competition when it comes to the fashion industry, especially the product from China, and how it's really killing the fashion industry in South Africa. Because even if you go to the local markets, the normal traditional dress, like the shue, you see it on the shelf from China. So what policy do you think the government need to put in place in order to protect these entrepreneurs or the business people who are in the fashion industry?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I've always asked the same question. I think there is a conflict between trade, policies in the trade, and policies in in arts and culture. So UNESCO is very clear about the protection of cultural goods. So I think for me, if the government can address that and bring the industry, maybe parts of the industry, into policies in culture and arts, then I would say the protection can take place there. Because honestly, I also feel very saddened. I presented a paper to Indonesia like 2 weeks ago on crafts of South Africa. And it's amazing that, you know, people come here, they take pictures and they go there and mass produce them and they come and sell. So the person that is producing in a township, or that Zulu person that is supposed to produce the hat, is not making money because of that. So I think the government needs to be advised that it should actually fit into the arts and culture, because UNESCO is very clear on protecting the cultural artworks and artifacts. So that's my view.
Thank you.
Do we have other questions from the audience?
Sorry. The other question I have, I think it has been asked by one of the fellow in here, is about now we have the problem of unemployment in South Africa. And the fashion industry is one of the cultural industry that we need to focus in order to create a huge employment for people in the area of training, apprenticeship, and things like that. So I don't know what role or what is the impact of the university in using this fashion industry to create more employment for the people. It might be in terms of the technical, vocational education and training. I just don't understand what, because the rate of unemployment is growing, but the university, this is a fashion industry we're talking about, is a big industry worldwide. So what's the role of the university in this?
Okay, thank you for that question. I will tackle it from the perspective of Tshwane University of Technology and the Department of Fashion Design. And maybe Thea can also, you know, help on what they are doing on the other side. The role of the university is actually crucial in the sense that currently Tshwane University of Technology has earmarked short learning programs. And these short learning programs are supposed to be in fashion. Fashion short learning programs, and then we've been also been advised to open up boutiques, and in some of that, and also business incubators or fashion incubators, whereby we will actually invite these experts. So those are avenues for job creation. And then the short learning programs are also avenues for job creation, because it's the lecturers and the professors are not going to teach in those short learning programs. We are also starting what we call foundation programs. Foundation program, there are so many applicants for the fashion design to the tune of almost 6,000, and we can only take 60. And majority of the remainder qualify also to do this. So what we are now planning is to start a foundation phase, which is going to offer senior certificate in fashion design. And that one also will call for the diplomas to teach in that. So that is a way of opening opportunities. Looking at the business perspective, a university alone is a huge market to be supplied with garments, to be supplied with any textile related. So that's already a huge market. But currently there has been a disconnection between I would say the marketing department and these other departments. But now that is way forward. Look at, for example, graduation gowns. Every year we've got almost 10,000 students graduating. So if we have that business unit and we supply that, if each university, I'm not saying that, if each university can take care of their own internal, then that is a huge job creation. And then many other things that needs to be done. So that is from the perspective of Tshwane University of Technology. Also, when we do the community engagement projects where you train the women, they're able to do that. And there's the concept of Proudly South Africa now, which these retailers are being encouraged to source from the people, from the locals. So there are certain things like crafts, beadwork, for example. If the university trains these women in the townships, in the villages, in terms of packaging, basic design skills, because some of these things are lacking. These are people who can actually make things and supply for the retail environment. And this is happening as we are talking. Most of the women in the townships are even supplying bags, sustainable bags to Woolworths. And I think there are many other, beadwork and all that. So that's a way of actually creating jobs. And as much as COVID came with its own disadvantages, I see it also on the other side, because currently people are looking local. People are manufacturing local. So I don't know whether I've answered you, but Prof. Celepis, maybe you can also take it up from there.
Thank you. So I would agree mostly with what you say, and on the role of university, but it is indeed a difficult question. I think a fantastic question and a very critical one, because I think, to be frank, universities end up chasing all kinds of rankings, and sometimes we forget our core business. In terms of job creation, which is extremely important, especially in Africa and South Africa, will be at a 50% unemployment in South Africa by the end of the year, which is devastating. So the role of the university for me, first of all, we have our four legs. The first is our teaching and learning. Absolutely, we have to train leaders of the future. These are the people that need to go out. And I'm not saying they have to be entrepreneurs, but they certainly do need to be entrepreneurial. And therefore, I am in the design field, and I find it very inspiring that we can actually, stretch that creativity in a way to so that people can become leaders, because they are proactive in their thinking, they are risk takers, and they are innovators. So that's the first thing, is our programs need to be aligned to that, but also our approaches in our teaching and learning. And I think that's what is lacking in a lot of programs still. Secondly, our community work. Universities have always been passionate about this, and I think not seeing it as a separate thing, seeing it as part of our research, seeing it as part of who we are and what we do. But again, I just want to come back. If we actually create or facilitate these responsible citizens, our students, they also go into the communities and they pull together and add value where they go. So yes, we also then base our research and we try and understand, and we try and answer these critical questions. And critical questions for me is, can everybody create their own job? I mean, that's a pipeline dream, and we have to be honest about it. But what can we do?
Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, we're close to the hour now, and we usually try to keep within. So I recommend that all of you actually, we will post this session and also the PowerPoint, and also links and LinkedIn links, etc. on thisiscbnet.com, and also you have now in the chat a direct link into the This is CBN Science, where you can hear all the other presentations. Thank you so much, Thea and Anne, for your presentation today. I could have gone on with another 10 questions about internship with masters, the mentor and the mentees, intellectual property right and cultural heritage, and value creation in the fashion industry, and uncertainty, and all kinds of issues. So I guess we have to take this up sometime soon again. It won't be this year, however, because as I mentioned in the beginning, if you're interested in Market Access USA, we have an event on the 8th of December at 5 o'clock. We have also a Creative Business Investor event on the 10th at 2 o'clock. And then we have on the 10th also one on, I'll give you the exact title because it's fascinating, efficient team structures in an open-ended cooperative creativity experiment. These are researchers mainly from Italy and I believe also from Spain that have done some research into using creating artwork such as with Lego bricks, for example, how the teams work together. And then, as I mentioned, on the 17th, we will have On Fire and Ice and the narratives of Game of Thrones. And this is CBN webinars. So all of you, thank you for signing in. I can see some of you are already helping out because we're going over time. But thanks again very much, Anne Mason and Thea Telepis for being part of this is CBN Science webinar. We'll be back with you in the future and then a bit more. Maybe you have a last word, Georgios?
I just want to thank you all, especially Professor Ran, for her insightful and inspiring presentation. Thank you a lot also, Thea, for being here. And I hope we can also collaborate in the future. I have already sent you an email. And thank you everyone for participating today. And we are just waiting for the next CBN Science next week about creativity and tips on Thursday 10th. Please stay tuned in our channels to learn more. And see you everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.